Some women step into a room and suddenly everything feels brighter. Their presence fills the air with warmth, and you can sense it instantly. But there are also women who, when they leave, only then do you realize the light has returned. This is not meant as a cruel remark, nor is it an attack. It is simply a truth that men who have lived, loved, and learned eventually come to understand. Because not every smile is as genuine as it seems. Not every hand that holds yours truly intends to walk beside you until the very end of the road. Life is too short, and far too precious, to waste your energy, your peace of mind, and your hard-earned heart on women who leave you feeling drained, confused, or doubting your own worth, especially those who hide behind charm, eloquence, and carefully polished behavior, as if they had rehearsed their entire character like an actress preparing for a role. In today's video, I will reveal 7 undeniable signs that the woman you're with may not be guiding you toward peace, but instead pulling you away from it, away from your sanity, and even away from yourself. This is not a judgment. This is a warning, because as Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And I would add, your happiness also depends on who you choose to walk this path with. The wrong person can cloud your thoughts. The right one can clear them. So, it's time to protect your clarity. It's time to reforge your sanity. And it all begins now. First sign. She is addicted to drama. And without realizing it, you're already living inside her show. At first, you won't notice. Women addicted to drama rarely announce it. They begin like a spark, fresh, exciting, unpredictable. They make you laugh easily. They ignite conversations, turning ordinary moments into something that feels alive. You think you've found a woman with fire, but slowly, you begin to realize, this fire doesn't warm you. It burns you. Pay close attention. When life becomes too calm, when there's nothing to argue about, when peace finally settles in, she will, consciously or not, strike a match. A forgotten story suddenly resurfaces. A harmless text message turns into a jealous storm. An imaginary problem appears, created not because it exists, but because she needs to test your devotion. This isn't the occasional emotional outburst. This isn't simply losing control after a stressful day. No, this is a lifestyle. A way of existing that feeds on chaos. For her, peace feels like emptiness. Silence feels like abandonment. Calmness feels unbearable. And so, she stirs conflict, sparks misunderstanding, or triggers an emotional explosion. Just to feel alive. Just to feel loved. A friend of mine once told me he lived as though walking on glass every single day. His girlfriend never screamed, never threw things, never raised her hand. Yet, if he replied to her message a few minutes late, or if his attention drifted while she was telling a story, the entire evening would collapse into silence, tears, and guilt. He carried the weight of being the cause of her pain, even though he had no idea what he had done wrong. That is the power of a drama addict. They control reality through emotion. No logic, no fairness, no proof, only imbalance, only reaction. And in that chaos, you slowly lose your balance too. This is exactly what Stoic philosophy warns us about. The trap of impulsive emotion. Seneca once wrote, "The angry man opens his mouth but closes his eyes." And a woman addicted to drama is no different. She is not searching for truth. She is not seeking reconciliation. What she craves is the feeling of power, the thrill of importance, The assurance that you revolve around her like a small planet orbiting a troubled sun. But here is the reminder. You are a man. You are meant to be the stronghold of the mind, a fortress that cannot be easily breached. And yet, if you allow yourself to be swept away by her emotional storms, you will begin to lose that fortress. Brick by brick, your sanity will slowly fade. You'll find yourself living not to honor your values, but only to avoid conflict. You won't be a guide anymore. You'll become nothing more than a fire extinguisher, constantly rushing to put out flames that she lights again and again. So what should you do? Not to run away in panic, not to lash out in anger, shouting that you've uncovered her truth. No. The answer lies in learning not to participate in the drama. When she stirs up waves, you remain still. When she demands an emotional war, you do not join the battle. Instead, you stand silent, not indifferent, but observant, not cold, but calm. As Epictetus wisely said, we cannot control others, only our own reactions. That is where your strength begins. Do not let her write the script for your life. Because if a woman can only feel significant by generating chaos, then you must ask yourself one crucial question. How much is my peace worth? For the man who follows Stoicism, inner peace is the ultimate fortress, and no one, no matter how beautiful, no matter how charming, should ever be worth the destruction of that fortress. Second sign. She controls you with guilt, and you don't even realize you're being controlled. Not all forms of control come as commands, arguments, or shouting. Some arrive quietly, silently, but they are far more dangerous. This kind of control is wrapped in guilt. It makes no sound. It leaves no visible scars. Yet it cuts deeply into your mind. Slowly, it plants doubt in you, forces you to adjust your behavior, and worst of all, it strips away your inner freedom. At first, she may appear sensitive, almost delicate. When you say you need to focus on work, she doesn't argue. She simply lowers her head, silent, as though your choice wounded her. When you suggest spending an evening alone, relaxing, or meeting your friends, she doesn't protest directly. Instead, she withdraws quietly, but her silence carries accusation, not understanding. And then it begins. You start to feel guilty. Nobody condemns you outright. Nobody raises their voice, but just one disappointed look, a single weary sigh, or a soft whisper. I just thought you would choose me, is enough to send your mind spinning with doubt. Am I being too selfish? Am I failing her? And then, little by little, you begin to change. You cancel a dinner with a colleague just to take her out instead. You turn down an important conference, simply because she wants an evening alone with you. Day by day, you quietly adjust every small detail of your life, just to avoid upsetting her. Just to keep her from being disappointed. Just so you don't feel like you're doing something wrong. But here's a truth you haven't realized yet. That's not love. That's emotional control. You think you're doing all these things out of love, but in reality, you're only doing them to escape guilt. And that, according to Stoic philosophy, is the worst trade of all. Because when you act not from values or reason, but from emotional fear, you give away the control of your own life. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "No one is truly free until he is master of himself." And a woman who can control you through guilt doesn't need harsh words. She only needs to withdraw her affection at the right moment, plant a seed of disappointment, and suddenly you feel guilty, even though no one has accused you of anything. Slowly, you become the one who is always explaining. Every decision must come with an excuse. just to avoid offending her. You no longer live by your own principles, but only to keep her pleased. And here lies the bitter truth. Every time you give in to guilt, you cut away a piece of your own personal boundaries. The more she realizes this, the more power she has. With just a bit of silence, a perfectly timed look of disappointment, or a calculated withdrawal of affection, you instantly adjust your behavior. Not because you are weak, but because you're operating from a shaky foundation: fear of loss, fear of being hurt, fear of being judged. But the man who follows the Stoic path is different. He does not allow guilt to dictate his actions. He knows that kindness cannot be forced, that love cannot be blackmailed with silence or sighs of disappointment. And above all, he refuses to trade his inner freedom for the temporary comfort of pleasing someone else. So, how do you recognize this type of woman? The answer lies in how you feel. Around her, you constantly feel as if you're never doing enough. She rarely asks directly, yet always leaves a gap that makes you feel at fault. You start to fear telling the truth, just because you're afraid it will upset her. And most importantly, you find yourself living to avoid mistakes, instead of living true to who you are. The solution isn't to argue, nor to suppress until you explode. The only way is to reclaim your inner sovereignty. Act from your heart, from your values. Remember, true love is freedom, not pressure. You have the right to say no. You have the right to take a break. You have the right to live your life without apologizing for it. When she tries to control you with guilt, don't react in panic. Stay steady and respond with strength. She may be sad, she may be disappointed, but if the love is real, she will respect your boundaries. And if she doesn't, then that isn't love, that's manipulation. Stoic philosophy teaches us this. We are not afraid of what happens. We are only afraid of how we feel about it. Remember, calmness is your weapon. Don't let anyone steal your clarity with just a sigh or a look of disappointment. And now, let's move on to the third sign. It's when she always plays the victim, and you become the reluctant hero, forced to step in and save her. There is a type of woman who never takes responsibility for anything in her life. From a brief conversation with a stranger on the street, to a long-term relationship lasting years, she always appears to be the one who suffers. Every mistake is someone else's fault. Every pain comes from the outside. And if you are not careful enough, you will quickly fall into this seemingly harmless trap until you realize you've become the main character in a story you never wrote. Yet you've been cast in the leading role. At first, you might feel moved because she tells her stories so well. Just enough tears, just enough softness in her voice to awaken your instinct to protect. She talks about the cold ex-husband, the selfish boss, the betraying best friend, and you believe maybe all she really needs is a good man, someone who listens and won't hurt her the way others did before. But you forget one important thing. Is she truly just a victim? Or is she using that role to manipulate you? I once knew a man like that. His name was Tom, a quiet, stable man who had gone through a broken marriage. When he met her, Tom was drawn in by what seemed like her honesty, sharing painful stories from her past. He believed he had found a brave woman, someone who dared to face her pain as part of her journey to growth. But as time went on, Tom realized one thing. Those stories never ended. From ex-lovers to co-workers, from parents to friends, one by one, everyone eventually became the villains in her world. She didn't need someone to love her. She only needed a loyal audience to listen to her endless tales of injustice. And then, almost inevitably, Tom became the next villain in her tragedy. If he agreed with her, he was the hero, but the moment he disagreed, or dared to say, "In this, I also share some responsibility," he instantly became the guilty one. Every piece of advice he gave was twisted. Every silence was dismissed as indifference. And every boundary he tried to set was labeled as heartless, as proof that he didn't truly love her. This isn't just a negative habit. It is a mechanism of emotional control, built on the manipulation of compassion. And that is exactly what makes it so dangerous. After the story about the woman who always plays the victim, we arrive at an even more dangerous truth. If you don't realize soon enough that you are being controlled, you will willingly trade your inner peace just for the illusion of being needed. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "No one can enslave you unless you hand them the key to your own mind." Remember, a truly strong woman doesn't need to act like a victim to be loved. She knows how to share pain with you, but she won't force you to carry all the responsibility. She knows when to heal herself, and when all she really needs is an embrace, not a shield. So, what should you do? First, take a step back. Observe instead of reacting. Ask yourself, are those repeated stories truly part of a healing journey, or are they just a way to control your emotions? Don't become the savior in a drama you never agreed to play in. And if you find yourself being drawn into that endless emotional spiral, remember this. Sometimes kindness isn't about saving someone else. It's about saving yourself from someone who refuses to change. That is the very spirit of Stoic philosophy. It doesn't teach us to be indifferent. It teaches us to be aware. And now, we come to the fourth sign. It is when she becomes overly obsessed with appearance and social status, to the point that you must sacrifice yourself just to maintain the image she wants the world to see. At first, you might think this is harmless. After all, who doesn't like beauty? Who doesn't want to enjoy the finer things, an expensive dress, a glamorous photo shoot, or a fancy dinner date? In themselves, these things are not wrong, but the real problem lies in her core values. For a woman consumed by appearance and status, the world is nothing more than a stage, and she never steps off that stage. Every action, every decision, every relationship exists solely to protect the flawless image she has so carefully constructed. She doesn't just want to be beautiful. She wants to be recognized as the perfect woman. Not just to live well, but to live better than others. Not just to be happy, but to make others jealous. And gradually, you are no longer a man with genuine strengths and weaknesses. You become a prop, a detail in the picture she wants to display to the world. You must dress the right way to be worthy of her. You must choose the right restaurants so she has photos to post on social media. You must be successful, not truly for your family's sake, but so that she can boast about having the perfect husband. The truth is, she doesn't love you for who you are. She loves the version of you that struggles endlessly to fit into the standards she has set. And the harsh reality is this: such a woman will never feel satisfied. Not because you have failed to achieve anything, but because her heart is driven by an invisible craving, the constant need for recognition from others. And now, let's dig a little deeper. What really happens when someone places all their happiness on external desires? The truth is, those desires can never be satisfied. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little that is poor, but the one who always craves more. That is true poverty." With a woman obsessed with glamour, you could give her an entire world today, and tomorrow, she'll demand another, and if you don't deliver, she won't throw a tantrum. She'll simply show a quiet disappointment, subtle enough to make you feel like you're not good enough. That is manipulation in disguise. You end up running, not because of your own ideals, but just to keep pace with the image of life she puts on display. A race with no finish line, no prize, only exhaustion. Stoic philosophy reminds us, wealth, status, and fame are indifferent things. They're neither good nor bad, unless you give them too much power over your life. A woman who lives for looks and status doesn't really see you. She only sees what you represent. She loves the logo on the car you drive, not the journey you've taken. She loves the title printed on your business card, not the sleepless nights behind it. She would rather take a picture with you for social media than sit with you in silence and understanding. And if you stay long enough, you'll eventually lose your peace. Not because she intends to harm you, but because you'll always have to prove your worth according to the standards she sets for the outside world. The solution is not to educate her about real values, nor to fight and force her to see the person within you. The only solution is mindfulness, seeing the truth. You cannot build a deep relationship on a foundation of shallowness. For a man who lives by Stoic principles, value is not in what he owns, but in how he lives, with simplicity, with self-control, and without being enslaved by the opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't lose your self-worth simply because you live in a world that fails to recognize it." So if you are with a woman who only sees the makeup, the designer labels, or the number of social media followers, you don't need to argue. You just walk away, not because you're weak, but because you value the freedom of your spirit more than a fake nod of approval. And from here, we move to the fifth sign, one of the hardest truths to face, when she lacks empathy. And you only discover it at the very moment you need it most. We just talked about a woman who lives for appearance and status. And the consequence is that you lose your inner peace. But there is something even harder to accept. When you need a shoulder to lean on the most, she is absent. Even in her presence, she is right there, but not truly present. I remember a man I once knew. After his first wife passed away, he met a young woman, bright, intelligent, and charming with her words. At first, she seemed understanding, a good listener, making him believe he had finally found a true companion. But then, when the real grief surfaced, when he needed someone to just sit quietly beside him, she began to lose patience. Every time he mentioned his late wife, she quickly changed the subject. Every time he needed silence, she felt abandoned, and in the very moment he needed her most, she disappeared, not physically, but in her heart. A woman who lacks empathy is not necessarily a bad person, but clearly, she is not the right person to walk with you. Stoic philosophy reminds us of one clear truth: accept reality. Don't cling to illusions. And the reality is, you cannot love for someone else. You cannot teach them to listen with their heart, if their heart has never learned to resonate with the pain of others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." And I would add, don't waste your life hoping for a woman to be empathetic. If she doesn't want to, or if she is incapable of it, a woman without empathy will make you feel lonely even when she sits right beside you. Not because you are not heard, but because you are not felt. The pain you share is treated like casual conversation. The wound you reveal is treated like a problem to be quickly fixed. And slowly, you learn to be silent, not because you are strong, but because you know the only thing you will receive in return is emptiness. So, what should you do? Don't blame, don't beg, don't expect, simply accept. Accept that some people are born with closed hearts. They may be beautiful, intelligent, talented, but if their hearts don't know how to empathize, they will never walk with you through the cold winters of life. The wisdom of Stoicism does not demand that you be angry. It only requires you to be honest. Honest about your feelings, honest about the emptiness you sense, and honest about your choice to stay and hope for a miracle, or to walk away and protect your peace. Because a woman with an empathetic heart doesn't need to say much. Her quiet, steady, genuine presence is enough to let you know, I am not alone. But if she cannot do that for you, then you should not spend your whole life trying to fill that void for her. And this brings us to the sixth sign, when she does not respect your time. After talking about the lack of empathy, there is another sign that quietly drains you, one that often takes a long time to notice, when she doesn't respect your time. Richard once found himself in that exact situation. Back then, he met a beautiful, intelligent, and charming woman, but soon she was always late, always canceling plans, always armed with a perfectly good excuse. At first, Richard was patient. He rearranged his schedule. He canceled meetings with friends. He sat alone in restaurants, waiting, again and again, until one day, after being stood up yet another time, Richard just sat there, staring at his phone, and sighed. I feel like I'm always waiting. And that very sentence revealed the harshest truth. A woman who doesn't respect your time will keep you waiting, not only physically, but emotionally as well. Waiting for her to change. Waiting for her to see your worth. Waiting for her to cherish your love the way you cherish hers. But a man who lives by Stoic wisdom understands. The problem isn't that we have too little time, but that we waste it on people who don't deserve it. Seneca once said, "It's not that she forgot you. It's not that she was too busy. It's simply that she didn't prioritize you." And when you see that truth clearly, you don't need to argue. You don't need to blame. You only need to make a decision. Someone who respects you will keep their word, be on time, and treat every minute with you as precious. But someone who doesn't respect you will take your time freely, without ever thinking they've done anything wrong. The problem isn't just one missed date. The problem is an entire life being worn away by meaningless waiting. Time waits for no one. And in the end, the deepest pain doesn't come from her being late, but from the fact that you waited far too long to realize you deserve so much more. After talking about the futility of waiting, there is another sign just as cruel, when she never admits she is wrong. Let's be honest, who among us has never made a mistake? But only those who are truly strong and grounded in inner values can openly say, I was wrong. I'll fix it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if someone can show you that you are wrong, be thankful. Because you are getting closer to the truth. A woman who never admits her mistakes is not a strong woman. In reality, she is so afraid that she would rather sacrifice the relationship itself just to protect her fragile ego. Instead of facing the truth, she may be intelligent, charming, even persuasive, but she lacks the most essential ingredient of any mature relationship: self-reflection. And when someone never accepts fault, the relationship slowly turns into a battlefield. You no longer search for truth, only for a fragile, temporary peace. You stop communicating naturally, weighing every single word. You stop being yourself, becoming instead the one who carries the weight whenever logic is not on her side. And what is most exhausting is not the arguments themselves. It's the feeling that you are constantly trying to hold up a leaning building, even though you weren't the one who built it on the wrong foundation. Stoic philosophy reminds us, you cannot control other people, but you can control the truth within yourself. So face it with courage, if she cannot admit even her smallest mistakes. This relationship will never grow. You don't need someone perfect. You need someone brave enough to say, "You're right. I was wrong. I see it now." Within those words lies not only kindness, but also the opportunity for both of you to move forward, not through pretense, but through honesty. And if those words never come, you must learn to walk away, not in anger, but out of respect for yourself. Because the truth is, in a toxic relationship, the greatest harm is not always done by the one who causes pain, but sometimes by the one who silently allows it to continue. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to expose, argue, or prove yourself right. A man who understands Stoic wisdom knows, not every door needs to be slammed shut. Some doors simply require you to walk through and never return. Remember this. True love will never demand that you sacrifice your core values to keep it. Genuine commitment will not rob you of your peace every single day. And a woman truly worth your time will never force you to trade away your freedom, your time, or your self-respect just to maintain a so-called relationship. Don't wait until exhaustion teaches you how to let go. Don't lose yourself before you fight to regain your clarity. You are the leader of your own life, not a victim in someone else's drama. Live as a free man, not just outwardly, but within your soul. And if these words awaken something inside you, leave a comment below, share your story, or simply write, "I choose clarity." That is how you remind yourself today that it's time to step into the light. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next videos, where together we'll learn to live stronger, more mindful, and more peaceful.